Shalom Bracha, wonderful, heilige, beautiful tzaddikim. Today, Be'ezras Hashem, day 14, our quality of today, our midah of today is Mikrah. And this Indian of Mikrah is so beautiful, so empowering, so important. We're told that the basic emunah of a Yid comes from learning Chumash, learning Tanakh, understanding and knowing the Psukim. And Pshat, according to the qualities of being Kohen Torah, is to know the Psukim. We know, for example, that this is not new. This is something very old. Already 1,000 years ago, the Orchas Harosh, in Siman Lamed Zayin, he writes to his son, learn Chumash, learn Tanakh. We know in Yeshivas Chasam Sofer and Yeshivas Volozhin, they set up Sedorim to learn Chumash and Tanakh. It's our emunah. And it's something so important. In the introduction to Das Mikrah, Rabbi Yerucham writes that he sees the quality between Bochurim who learn Mikrah to Bochurim who don't. That there's a Elichkeit to them. There's something different about them. They're more Balei Emunah. They hold themselves differently. It's our history and it's our story. I'd like to add going in a little bit deeper, that when we're speaking about any chelek of Torah, each and every chelek of Torah is an invitation for us, and it's an invitation to us from the Beira Olam, from the cause of all causes, to orientate our perception, to experience a certain experience as we navigate our way through this world. And the invitation of Mikrah is HaKadosh Baruch Hu calling to us. He's speaking to us. He's calling out to us. And the definition of Mikrah we translate as Chumash, as Tanakh, Psukim, but the Nakuda is Mikrah means to call. Vayikra Hashem el Moshe, and Hashem calls out to Moshe. In other words, Hashem calls out to each and every one of us. He's speaking to us. And it's our avodas brought in the Sfarim HaKadoshim, that when we are in Chumash, when we are in the rest of Nach, to hear in the Chumash my reality. When I'm reading about Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moshe Rabbeinu in me is being spoken to. When I read about Arna Cohen, when I read about Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the Avraham, the Yitzchak, and Yaakov in me is being spoken to. So as I read about the Akedas Yitzchak, about sacrifice, about trials and tribulations, where am I? I'm being spoken to. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is calling out to me. He's calling out my name. Mikrah doesn't just mean reading words. Mikrah is in essence an experience. And as well, it's not just a klal. We're told by the Mekubalim that the mitzvah of Shnai Mikrah v'Achad Targum is each and every pasuk is calling out to us. Each and every pasuk is being called out. It's Hashem speaking to us. Hashem's calling us. And there's this unbelievable reality that when we start the Aveda of using our imagination to hear my story within the Psukim, then I develop what Rashi tells us in Chagiga, Yud Beis, Amid Beis. We develop an understanding heart. Ahavtana Deliba, an understanding of the heart. It's double. It's a double bind. I start it and it brings me more into it. And for example, one Eitzah, which is a beautiful Eitzah, is from the Kuzari in the third Maimah, and it's brought in other places, and that is to visualize. Visualize what you learn. So you learn some Mikrah, stop, and then visualize what you have learned. And when you visualize what you have learned, it makes it more real. Imagine it in color, imagine it in sound, and then imagine that you are the Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Imagine that you are the player that you are learning about. As this midah and the next midah is about learning, I just want to share before we end a story from the Biala Rebbe that we can repeat thousands of times. When I was a Bacha Bar Mitzvah and I went to the Biala Rebbe, he said to me as following. He says, Shula, you're now going to be married to Torah. And you have to treat Torah properly. I want to share with you something. The way Torah works is that when you're reading the words of Chumash, when you are reading the words of Mishnah, when you're reading the words of Gemara, that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to you. Directly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to you. And then when you stop to think about what you have heard, what you have read, that's you speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's this beautiful relationship. The divine is speaking through you to you. And when you stop to think about and contemplate, you are speaking and relating to the divine. Be'ezras Hashem Chevra, Mikrah, we can hear Hashem calling us. And we can relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And for today, as we learn Mikrah Chevra, hear you being spoken to. Hear the story that it's about you. Learn from it and deepen our whole experience with the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in our reality. Baracha and Hatzlacha, may we be successful in all our endeavors.